today to find out more about our ranking. My name is Siyana Gurova, and I'll now walk you through the statistical method we use to estimate the final investor scores. We use ideal point estimation techniques to capture the investors' sustainability alignment as expressed through their voting choices. Essentially, we are mapping out where each investor sits on a sustainability spectrum by analyzing how they voted on key sustainability-related proposals. You can think of it a bit like how Netflix or Spotify recommend you content. They don't ask you about directly what you like, they infer your tastes from what you watch or what you listen to. Ideal point estimation works on the same principle. It uncovers an underlying preference pattern from observed choices. In our case, proxy voting choices. Now moving from that everyday analogy to how this method is actually used in research, the closest and best known example comes from political science. Ideal point estimation is a family of statistical models that map decision makers on an underlying preference spectrum using their voting records. It's widely used to analyze politicians' ideological positions without ever asking them directly what they believe. Instead, we infer their stance from their voting choices. And to show you how powerful these methods are, here is an example from the US Senate. Each dot on the plot is a senator, positioned purely based on how they voted, no party labels or prior assumptions. And yet the model automatically separates Democrats and Republicans into distinct clusters and shows us a clear ideological pattern. In other words, just from their voting behavior, the model draws us a meaningful map of political alignment. Here is the same logic applied to the Swiss case. Each parliamentarian is placed along a left-right spectrum purely from their votes. Members of the same party cluster together, exactly as one would expect. On the most right, we find the SVP, followed by the members of FDP, and so on. This confirms that the model captures meaningful ideological structures directly from voting behavior, and that's exactly what we do with investors. We replace parliamentarians with asset managers and owners, and parliamentary bills with AGM proposals, but the machinery is identical. The specific model we use, Eleanor, can you go to the next slide? Yeah. The specific model we use to derive the ranking scores is called Bayesian Ideal Point Estimation, or Bayesian Item Response Theory model. What makes it special is that it recognizes that some proposals are simply more informative than others. Think about it this way: if almost everyone supports a proposal, say a standard climate disclosure request, that proposal doesn't tell us much about who is truly committed to sustainability. But when a proposal is contested, that's where the real differences between investors start to emerge. The model detects those patterns automatically. It doesn't rely on any manual weights or additional assumptions. It simply learns from how investors vote across hundreds or thousands of proposals and gives greater influence to those proposals that truly separate them. Next slide, please. Yes, here is the same graph again, showing you how the data actually look like before any modeling. Each column is an investor and each row is a proposal. Blue means for vote, red means against. And you can already see here some blocks and patterns, but it's still just a massive tangle of votes. What the model does is it helps us make sense of this complexity and translates it into a single measure of sustainability alignment. Finally, the model places each investor along a continuous scale, so not simply sustainable or not sustainable, but somewhere in between. This gives us a comparable way to measure sustainability alignment across all the hundreds of investors that we have analyzed. And the outcome is a single score between 0 and 1, where higher scores indicate stronger alignment with sustainability. And that's how we build the scores behind the ranking. Now, Eleanor will take us through what the results actually show.